When we moved into our house, we found a calendar on the wall. Every year, the same 3 days are marked. Don't go out. My husband Toby and I mightn't have even noticed it for a while if we hadn't moved into our new house early in the year. Moving in the crisp, frigid air of early February was much preferable to wiping sweat from our brows whilst we hauled box after box from vans parked outside during the summer as we had many years prior. We walked through the giant oak doors that beckoned us into what we hoped would be our forever home and beyond the hallway into the living room when my husband quipped, "Was that there before?" When we had our viewing, I quickly scanned the space before me and shot him a confused look. I never did have good eyesight, nor was I the most observant person. He raised a hand and pointed towards the wall directly opposite us, where a large calendar faced us. The place was unfurnished because we wanted to make it fully our own, and the moving company could only deliver our stuff the day after moving, so there wasn't anything to see beyond the bare-bones skeleton of the house when we had our viewing. It did look out of place amongst the naked walls, but I still didn't take much note of it. For whatever reason, though, my husband did and dropped the bag strapped along his shoulder to take a look. Again, it may have been my eyesight, but he seemed to spot the dark red circle around one of the dates from where we were originally standing. "Hey, what do you reckon that date is marked for?" he wondered out loud. I walked up beside him and took a look for myself. "I dunno. Maybe it's a birthday or something," I spoke, my tone indicating my tiredness and desire to just go to bed. "Yeah, maybe, but what's that doing here?" "It wasn't here for the viewing, and some dude's birthday has nothing to do with us," Toby said, ever inquisitive. Overly so when I was already tired. He began to flick through the rest of the months, and with a voice tinged with something beyond his usual excitement announced that 2 other dates had been circled in that same red font along with some writing neither of us had noticed to that point. He always did love a good mystery, no matter how small. 3 dates were marked across the year and into the next. And the next. February 6th, June 19th, September 21st. Don't go out, faintly written beneath each. Despite my reluctant intrigue and notice of his atypical demeanor, I told him that as much as I enjoyed diving into rabbit holes with him, I was too tired to play the guessing game that night, and we promptly carried our suitcases and backpacks up to the master bedroom and got ready for bed. The next morning, I woke up to Toby sitting on the couch from our old place the movers must have delivered and arranged as paid for whilst I was still asleep. He was facing the calendar and scrawling something onto a notepad. As my footsteps came within his earshot, he looked up at me and with that ever-comforting smile that never failed to reach his eyes, welcomed me into our new living room. Only the basics of our old furniture were arranged, and we still needed to organize a lot of the more aesthetic stuff ourselves, but it felt like home. After a brief conversation, he got down to business. He had already exhausted his search for a connection between the 3 dates and was trying to find one himself. I'd lived with and loved my investigative Toby for many years, but I'd never seen him like this. It was obsession at first glance. As I have admitted, the entire thing stirred up a quietly ominous curiosity within me too. Something wasn't quite right with that calendar. Why those dates? Why couldn't we go out? Ever a head in the sand skeptic, I put it down to a joke of some sort, or something left behind by somebody between our viewing and move-in dates. I told myself and Toby over and over. The simplest explanations are always closest to the truth. Nevertheless, his breathless expedition into this particular unknown continued, and as February the 6th crept up on us, he remained no closer to the answer he was digging for, so he came up with a plan. After reluctantly agreeing to go along with the whole staying inside for the day rule, mostly to humor him and a tiny bit to give him a playful smug look when his plan amounted to nothing, he asked me to join him on a neighborhood watch. Essentially, he planned to sit by the large window overlooking the lawn and the row of houses across from us all day. He wanted to see if any of the neighbors who, after exchanging the usual pleasantries with once we had settled in, he quickly probed about the existence of their own odd calendars, to which they let him know that it came with the house, and to kindly never mention this again, would go about their days regardless of what the strange calendar said. We turned the couch around and sat for hours, talking at first about the new house and the calendar, wondering what it all meant and why every neighbor politely but sternly warned us to not talk about its existence. As the day went on and we grew bored of the guessing game and the silent street we looked out onto, we moved on to recalling the day we met and the many days we'd had together since. It became romantic, intimate. The two of us sitting there entangled in a conversation like that against a scene of life in a sleepy, peaceful suburb. But then Mr. Hudson from across the street went outside. He and his wife had been living in the neighborhood for quite some time, so we went over to introduce ourselves a few weeks prior. It all looked fine at first. We peered more intently through our blinds as he lit a cigarette and took a long, hard drag before obscuring his weathered face in the exhale of smoke that followed. And just as that cloud took his face out of our focus, he vanished, dematerialized. The cigarette remained suspended, the faint daylight glow of the flame that lit it pulsating in an inconceivable fashion. It dwindled until nothing much remained beyond the filter, and as trivially as he had disappeared, Mr. Hudson was standing on his lawn again. Burnt-out cigarette clung between his fingers as if he had been there the entire time. Toby stared at me with an intense horror that my own eyes must have conveyed too, and neither of us spoke until Mr. Hudson had walked back into his and his wife's house. "Did I, just see that right?" he whispered, voice tainted with a deep unease. Unable to form any words, I only nodded in response as to say I had seen the same thing. We silently agreed to stop watching. Neither of us wanted to see any more of whatever this was. The rest of that day was spent quietly ruminating with shuttered blinds and a blanket of something profoundly wrong shrouding the house. After far too long, February the 7th finally unshackled us, and with much trepidation, we decided we needed to take the short walk across the street. We needed to talk to the Hudsons. Just as soon as the final echo of my knock rang out, Mrs. Hudson's kind old lady demeanor greeted us. What a pleasant surprise. "How can I help you boys?" she said, her face plastered with a smile that stretched a little too wide, and with Mr. Hudson greeting us with a wave from a few feet behind her. I let Toby lead the conversation. This was his mystery to solve in the first place after all, even if I had become wrapped up in it too. He hesitated before replying. "We're sorry to bother Mrs. Hudson, but did Mr. Hudson leave the house yesterday? We, are a little concerned about something we saw." She remained steadfast in maintaining her outward appearance, but something in her eyes stirred. Her reply was subtly tinted with fear. Subtly enough that neither of us would have caught it if not for the equally subtle change in her eyes. But still, she replied, "My Bill?" "No, sweetie, I'm afraid you must be confused," before craning her head backwards and loudly asking Bill, "Will you turn the stove off, please? We don't want your favorite soup to burn, do we?" After which Mr. Hudson disappeared from the background of our view into the hallway. And in that sliver of opportunity she had conjured, she spoke to us with a tone of the utmost urgency. "The whispers'll get you. Leave before they do, or it'll be too late." Mr. Hudson reappeared faster than he should have and must have caught the dread-filled looks on our faces because he asked if we were okay. If we wanted to come in for some soup. "It'll damn sure make you look better," he proclaimed. We declined, said goodbye as politely as we could manage, and struggled through unsteady legs to make the walk back across the street before closing and locking the front door. The next night, as we watched the house across from us once again, all of the lights behind the curtained windows shimmered on and off for untold minutes before finally sputtering off and staying that way. We never saw Mrs. Hudson again. Our calls to the police after days of imitating the ill-fated neighborhood watch not long prior yielded no results. In fact, they reassured us after a visit that no Mrs. Hudson ever existed. William Hudson inherited the house from his father and never married. If we hadn't had each other and our collective experience to rely on, I don't believe either of us would have remained particularly convinced of our own sanity. We wanted to heed Mrs. Hudson's advice, but we had just bought the place. Still, we quietly searched for a new home. Neither of us wanted to be here for the next marked date. But then the whispers started. Only one of us heard them, and it wasn't me. I held Toby in my arms when he woke up screaming. I comforted him when he heard voices from within the walls. I put the house up for sale and began to pack our things when he stopped being able to function. All he could do was listen to the whispers. He said they beckoned him outside, told him something wonderful was waiting for him out there. And all he had to do? Unlock the front door and step outside to see it all for himself. Yesterday was June the 19th, our second marked day together. I tried so hard to stop him, but he's always been the bigger one, the stronger one. He got past me anyway. I watched as he flickered out of this existence and into somewhere else. And I watched as he came back. I didn't see him come back into the house. As suddenly as he was outside, he was beside me. Inside. He smiled at me as if he hadn't seen me in many years. But for the first time, that familiar smile didn't reach his eyes. I hope you guys liked this video. If you did, make sure like, comment, share, and subscribe the channel Mark Stories.